psychology facts about women, human behavior insights, this will change how you see them. A girl with smaller breasts is often more misread by society than people realize. Human psychology and perception, especially when it comes to body image, are heavily molded by the media and cultural ideals in today's world, dominated by visual platforms and filtered standards. What a woman looks like still plays a massive role in how she's seen, how she sees herself, and how she navigates the social space around her. One of the most common and persistent stereotype centers around breast size mainstream narratives tend to associate large breasts with desirability and femininity, while those with smaller chests are often overlooked or misjudged. But research in psychology and human behavior suggests this thinking is not only outdated, but deeply flawed. Girls with smaller breasts often encounter a very different psychological and emotional journey, one that challenges shallow assumptions and reveals deeper truths. To start with, women who have smaller breasts tend to face social misjudgment. More frequently than people think, the bias is subtle but powerful. Many associate large breasts with sexual attractiveness and womanhood, meaning those who don't fit that mold are sometimes perceived as less feminine or less desirable. This happens due to what psychologists call scheme theory, where the brain creates simplified mental models based on what society repeatedly shows us. Since media often glorifies curvier body types, these mental shortcuts become default judgments, even if they aren't accurate. As a result, many people underestimate or entirely miss the unique beauty and presence of women who don't align with those visual norms. Yet despite these narrow perceptions, having a smaller chest comes with its own set of advantages, physically, mentally, and emotionally, from a practical standpoint. Women with smaller breasts often experience fewer physical restrictions. Activities like jogging, high-intensity workouts, yoga, and even dancing can feel more natural and less cumbersome. This ease in movement often fosters a stronger connection with their physical bodies. In psychological terms, this is known as embodiment, the internal sense of being at home in your own body when the body feels free and functional. The mind follows creating a more positive self. Pigeon and higher satisfaction with one's physical self. Moreover, women with smaller breasts often build a stronger self-identity that extends far beyond physical appearance during adolescence, an age when the body begins to define a large part of one's self-worth. Girls who don't get attention for their curves might initially feel less noticed, but over time, many of them develop emotional resilience. Instead of relying on appearance to feel valuable, they invest more energy into personal growth, intellectual abilities, or creative pursuits. This aligns with what psychologists call self-complexity theory, the idea that those who develop multiple layers of identity tend to be more emotionally stable and resilient. When your value isn't dependent on just one trait, you're less vulnerable to emotional upheaval. Another fascinating aspect lies in the objectification dynamic studies. In social psychology reveal that women who are regularly objectified tend to internalize those external views. This leads to something called self-subjectification, where a woman constantly monitors her appearance even when she's alone. While girls with smaller chests may be objectified less frequently in overt ways, it doesn't mean they escape scrutiny. In fact, the constant glorification of voluptuousness in pop culture can make them feel inadequate, leading to an internalized belief that they don't measure up. This silent pressure often flies under the radar, but its psychological impact is very real. These emotional undercurrents can lead to anxiety, lowered self-esteem, and a heightened need for external validation, unless they're actively balanced by supportive environments and a conscious effort towards self-acceptance. Positive reinforcement from friends, partners, and family plays a big role in helping these women form a healthy relationship with their bodies. Interestingly, many women with smaller breasts become empowered voices in the body. Positivity movement in the last decade, there's been a significant cultural shift away from one size fits all beauty standards, body positivity now champions all body types. From plus-size figures to petite frames, social media has provided a platform where women can celebrate their natural form without apology for those with smaller chests. This movement offers validation and visibility. Instead of trying to conform, they're now proudly showing that beauty exists in all shapes and sizes. This acceptance brings with it strong psychological rewards. When a woman embraces her body for what it is not, what it should be, she experiences an increase in authentic self-expression, confidence, and emotional freedom. She no longer sees her body as a problem to be fixed, but as a unique part of who she is. That internal shift is powerful. It doesn't just change how she sees herself, it changes how others perceive her. Too culturally, we're beginning to see a richer understanding of beauty and femininity. People are questioning the media-driven ideals they once accepted blindly as more voices come forward. Challenging traditional norms. Women with smaller chests are reclaiming their narrative not as women who lack something, but as women who bring something different and equally valuable to the table. Furthermore, embracing one's natural body often creates ripple effects in mental health. When women are no longer burdened by unrealistic standards, they free up emotional energy to pursue goals, form healthy relationships, and build confidence that isn't skinned. They feel seen for who they are, not just how they look, and this kind of self-worth rooted in identity, not appearance, is both rare and powerful. It's important to note that this conversation is not about glorifying one body type over another, but about dismantling the idea that only one type deserves glory in the first place. Every woman's experience is different, but for girls with smaller breasts, their journey is often one of quiet strength, built through overcoming societal invisibility and emerging with a fuller, more complex understanding of themselves. In psychological terms, these women often possess higher levels of emotional intelligence and self-awareness because they've had to dig deeper for validation. They tend to develop strong internal value systems that are less shaken by shallow judgments over time. This results in a more grounded sense of identity and stronger emotional boundaries. Let's also recognize the role of relationships here in romantic dynamics. Some women with smaller breasts may initially fear not being enough, but those fears often fade when real emotional connection and mutual respect take center stage partners who value authenticity. Emotional intimacy and personality over physical proportions often help shift those internal narratives for good. These interactions become healing, rewiring years of internalized doubt and replacing them with affirming, stable connections. And when society at large begins to understand these layers, the psychology, the emotional resilience, the lived experiences, we cultivate empathy, we start to challenge the unconscious biases we've absorbed. We begin to appreciate that femininity, desire, ability, and identity are far more expansive than what we've been taught to believe in. Conclusion: a girl with small breasts is not just her physical form. Her journey, shaped by resilience, shaped by how she adapts to cultural pressures, and shaped by her refusal to be boxed in, is complex, rich, and worthy of recognition. She's often stronger than people give her credit for. She's often deeper, more self-aware, and more authentic than what shallow beauty norms account for. Understanding her story requires looking beyond the surface. It requires acknowledging how media culture and psychology influence our judgments, and then choosing to see her as a whole person, one with thoughts, goals, vulnerabilities, and inner strength. When we shift our lens from appearance to identity, we start building a culture where all women, regardless of body type, can feel valued, seen, and empowered.